Surprisingly, over 90% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It motivates us to keep creating and helps us never miss an upload, and you'll never miss a story again. It was supposed to be a simple family dinner, until my wife's parents laughed in my face and told me to embrace her affair. Apparently, in their world, cheating was normal and made marriages stronger. When I refused, my wife smiled and gave me an ultimatum: apologize or go. I went, but not before leaving a little gift in their home. Days later, I woke up to 76. Missed calls, voicemails ranging from anger to panic. Then my wife showed up at my door, desperate. But when she saw who was standing behind me, her face went pale. What happened next didn't just end our marriage. It set off a chain reaction that shattered her family forever. And the best part? I never had to raise my voice once. It started with what I thought was going to be just a nice family dinner. My wife, Lila, had been pestering me for weeks to come over to her parents' house for one of their traditional get-togethers. I had no idea what that meant, but she made it sound important, so I cleared my schedule, bought a nice bottle of wine, and told myself it would be fine. We'd been married for just under 3 years. Things between us had been odd lately. She'd been spending more time with friends, and I'd been noticing little changes. Her phone glued to her hand, muted conversations in the hallway, sudden bursts of laughter when she was texting someone late at night. I wasn't paranoid, but I also wasn't blind. Still, I'd decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. When we arrived at her parents' place, the house was warm and loud. Lila's parents, her 2 brothers, and her cousin were already seated around a big, polished dining table. I was greeted with handshakes and hugs, but there was something in the way they looked at me, like they were all sharing some private joke. Dinner started out normally enough. Plates were passed around, stories were shared, and I even managed to laugh along at a few family anecdotes. But somewhere between the salad course and the main dish, the conversation took a sharp turn. Lila's mother leaned forward, her wine glass in hand, and said, "So, Daniel, we hear you've been a bit uptight about Lila's new friend." The table chuckled. I set my fork down slowly. "New friend?" I asked, glancing at Lila. She didn't look embarrassed. In fact, she looked smug. "I told them you might overreact," she said. "Overreact to what?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Lila's father spoke up. "To her seeing someone else, of course. It's normal here. It keeps the marriage fresh." He said it like it was the most casual thing in the world. The room erupted into nods and murmurs of agreement. Her cousin chimed in, "It's like taking the pressure off one person. Makes things stronger in the long run." I sat there trying to process whether I'd actually heard them correctly. "You're saying it's okay for her to cheat?" Lila laughed, shaking her head as if I were the naive one. "It's not cheating, Daniel. It's exploring. It's part of my family's culture. We've always been open-minded." I stared at her. "And when were you planning to tell me this was part of the deal?" Her brothers smirked. Her mom sipped her wine like she was watching a predictable movie. "I didn't think it would be a problem," Lila said with a shrug. "But you've been acting all stiff and jealous, so I figured we should just get it out in the open." The more I listened, the clearer it became. They weren't asking me to accept this. They were telling me I had no say. I pushed my chair back slightly. "So, let me get this straight. You're actively seeing someone right now?" She didn't even blink. "Yes." "And you expect me to be okay with that?" Her father chuckled like I'd just said something adorable. "If you love her, you'll support her. That's what marriage is about." I looked around the table, searching for even one face that looked uncomfortable, but all I saw were smiles and smug satisfaction. That's when it hit me. They were all in on it. This wasn't some recent thing. This was something they'd normalized for years, maybe decades. When I didn't respond right away, Lila crossed her arms. "Look, Daniel, I'm not going to let you make me feel bad about this. You either apologize for the way you've been acting and accept it, or you can leave. But I'm not giving up something that makes me happy just because you're insecure." The room went silent for a moment, waiting for me to fold. I didn't. I leaned back in my chair and took a slow breath. "So those are my options? Apologize or go?" She nodded, completely confident that I'd cave. "Yes." That's the only way this works. I felt something inside me settle, a kind of calm I hadn't experienced since all this started. All right, I said finally, standing up. Then I'll go. There was a flicker of surprise on her face, but she quickly masked it with a scoff. Fine, if that's how you want it. I walked toward the hallway where our coats were hanging, but as I passed their staircase, I glanced upward, and an idea started forming. I paused, just for a second, then kept walking. I left without slamming the door, without raising my voice. But in my mind, the plan was already taking shape, something quiet, simple, and unforgettable. Because if they thought I was just going to walk away without leaving a mark, they were about to learn how wrong they were. I didn't sleep much that night, not because I was sad, but because my mind wouldn't stop working. It wasn't the heartbreak that kept me awake. It was the insult. The smug laughter at that dinner table. The way her family looked at me like I was the foolish outsider who didn't understand their culture. The way Lila gave me an ultimatum, like she was doing me a favor. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to send angry texts or plead for her to come back. I wasn't going to sink to the level they expected. I was going to leave something behind that they couldn't ignore. Something that would gnaw at them long after I was gone. The next morning, I went to our apartment to pack my things while Lila was at work. She hadn't even bothered to text me to check if I was okay. That was fine. I wasn't there for a reconciliation. I methodically took my clothes, my books, my tools, and a few sentimental things I knew she wouldn't even notice were gone until weeks later. But I left a few of my personal items, enough to make it seem like I might be coming back, just to keep her guessing. But the gift I was planning wasn't going to be left here. No, that needed to go where it would make the most impact, her family's house. I'd been there enough times to know exactly where everything was. I knew which room was her parents', which one was her brother's, and which one was the guest room that Lila sometimes stayed in when she needed space. I also knew something else. They prided themselves on being a tight-knit family that trusted each other completely. They left their doors unlocked during the day, even if they stepped out for errands. That trust was about to be their undoing. I drove over in the late afternoon, knowing her parents would be at their weekly volunteer event, something they bragged about constantly. Their driveway was empty. I parked a block away and walked up casually, as if I belonged there. The door was, as I expected, unlocked. The house was quiet, the faint smell of her mother's perfume lingering in the air. I made my way up the stairs, my footsteps silent on the carpet. I paused at their bedroom door. I had brought a small duffel bag with me. Inside was my gift. Not something illegal, not something that could get me into any real trouble, but something that would cause chaos in their little bubble of superiority. I pulled it out and set to work. Without getting too specific, let's just say it was a combination of items that, when found, would raise far more questions than anyone would want to answer. Something that could be interpreted in more than one way, but in all interpretations it wouldn't make them look good. I placed everything neatly, deliberately in spots that made it look like they belonged there, but just slightly off. Enough to make someone stop and say, "Wait a second, why is this here?" Enough to plant a seed of doubt that could grow into a forest of mistrust. When I was done, I stepped back and looked at the room. Nothing looked tampered with. But I knew the real storm wouldn't come until they noticed the details. On my way out, I couldn't resist one final touch. I went to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and removed one small, completely harmless item that I knew her mother was obsessed with keeping stocked. A very specific imported condiment. I took it and left the fridge door closed. She would notice it was missing almost immediately, and she'd have no idea why. It was petty, yes, but it was also the perfect breadcrumb. When I left the house, I locked the door behind me. The next step was to disappear. I didn't mean moving to another state. I meant vanishing from their access. I changed my number, updated my email, and blocked them on social media. I even had my mail forwarded to a friend's place temporarily. I wanted them to feel the absence, to have no outlet for their questions. That night, I went out for a quiet dinner alone, my phone on silent. When I got back to my place, I noticed I had one missed call from an unknown number, then another, then 10 more. By midnight, the count was up to 30. I smiled to myself and put the phone face down. By the following afternoon, I had 76 missed calls. Voicemails too, though I didn't listen to them, not yet. I knew exactly why they were calling. I pictured them frantically trying to reach me, voices raised in panic, accusations flying across the dinner table. Who put that there? Why was it there? Was it planted? Did someone in the family do it, or worse? Had someone been lying about something far bigger all along? The beauty of it was, I didn't have to say a word. My silence was the loudest part of the revenge. I spent the rest of the week living my life as if none of this had happened. I met with an old friend for coffee, worked on a project I'd been putting off, and even started apartment hunting in a different part of the city. Every so often, I'd check my phone just to see the number of missed calls climbing higher. It wasn't about getting them back in a dramatic confrontation. It was about letting them destroy themselves from the inside out, armed only with the little doubts I'd left behind. And from the sound of those voicemails, they were doing exactly that. 3 weeks. That's how long I went without seeing or speaking to Lila or her family. 3 weeks of complete silence from my end. No returned calls, no text replies, no social media posts, nothing. My friends joked that I'd gone ghost mode, but really I was just watching the storm brew from a safe distance. It was amazing how much you could learn just by doing nothing and letting people talk. At first, the calls and voicemails were frantic. Daniel, you need to call us back. We need to talk now. Something's happened, and you might know about it. Then the tone shifted. We're serious. This isn't funny. If you're doing this out of spite, it's childish. And finally, desperation. Please, just tell us what you did. We can work it out. By week 2, the messages were less frequent but far more telling. I could hear tension in their voices, whispered arguments in the background before someone hung up. I didn't need to hear the full story to know my little gift had done exactly what I intended. It had turned them against each other. Then, in week 3, I got an unexpected knock on my apartment door. It was a Friday evening. I had just sat down with a glass of wine and a book when I heard it. 3 sharp knocks, the kind that say, I'm not here for small talk. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. When I opened the door, Lila was standing there. Her hair was messy, her makeup smudged like she'd been crying, and her voice trembled when she spoke. We need to talk. I leaned against the doorframe. Do we? Yes. She glanced past me into my apartment like she expected to see someone else. It's about what you did. I kept my face neutral. What I did. She sighed, clearly trying to keep her composure. Don't play dumb, Daniel. You went to my parents' house, you left things in their room. I shrugged. Interesting theory. Her eyes narrowed. You're not denying it. I'm not confirming it either, I said casually. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Do you have any idea what's happened because of you? My parents are barely speaking to each other. My dad thinks my mom's been hiding something from him for years. My brothers aren't even coming over for Sunday dinner anymore. You've completely ruined the family dynamic. Funny, I said. I thought you told me your family dynamic was unshakable, that you were all so open and honest with each other. Her cheeks flushed with anger. This isn't a joke, Daniel. It's not a joke to me either, I replied. It's a consequence. You all sat at that table and laughed in my face while you told me to accept your affair like it was some quirky tradition. You gave me an ultimatum, apologize or leave, so I left. But I figured I'd leave a parting gift. She looked stunned for a moment, like she hadn't actually expected me to own it. You're sick. No, I said calmly. I'm just done letting people treat me like I'm disposable. You made your choice, Lila. I just made mine too. She stared at me, breathing hard, and for a second I thought she might start yelling. But instead she said something that caught me off guard. They think it's me. I raised an eyebrow. What? They think I planted that stuff, she said quickly. They think I was trying to stir drama between them. I've tried explaining, but they won't believe me. And now they're saying maybe this is why I can't make a marriage work. She gave a bitter laugh. It's tearing everything apart. That sounds like a personal problem, I said, my voice even. You could fix this, she said, stepping closer again. You could just tell them it was you. You'd clear my name, and maybe we could. I held up a hand. Stop. Whatever you think is going to happen here, it's not. I'm not here to fix the mess I made. In fact, I'd say the mess is the point. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I stepped back into my apartment, my hand on the door. You wanted me gone, Lila. You got your wish. This, I gestured between us, is the last conversation we're ever going to have. And in case it isn't clear, I don't regret a thing. And then, just before I closed the door, I let her see what was behind me. Standing in my living room was a woman she recognized instantly, her father's sister, Aunt Rebecca. The black sheep of the family, the one they'd all cut off years ago for reasons they never explained to me. Rebecca smiled at Lila, calm and knowing. "Hello, dear," she said sweetly. Lila's face went pale. What is she doing here?" I smirked. "Let's just say, not everyone in your family buys into your little traditions. Some people were more than happy to help me set the stage." Lila looked between us, realization dawning. You teamed up with her?" Rebecca tilted her head. "Oh, it was delightful, really. And just so you know, dear, your mother was never as loyal as you thought. Some secrets are better left to rot, but you forced them into the light." Lila's eyes filled with tears. "You're destroying everything." "No," I said, stepping forward. "I'm just showing you what was already broken." I closed the door gently, the latch clicking into place. Through the peephole, I watched her stand there for a moment, frozen, before turning and walking away. Her steps were slow, like she knew nothing would ever go back to the way it was. Inside, Rebecca poured herself a glass of wine and handed me one too. "To the end of an era," she said, raising her glass. "To the start of a better one," I replied. We clinked glasses, and I realized something important. Revenge didn't always have to be loud or violent. Sometimes the best kind was the kind that let people destroy themselves with nothing but their own insecurities. And from what I'd seen, Lila's family had plenty of those. After Lila left, I sat down on the couch next to Rebecca, the tension in the room shifting into something almost peaceful. Outside, I could still hear her heels clicking on the pavement as she walked away, each step slower than the last. Rebecca took a sip of wine and gave me a sideways glance. "She'll tell them she came here to fix things," she said. "But the truth is, she came to save herself." I nodded. "And she just realized she can't." We sat in silence for a moment, both of us listening to the muffled city noise outside. It struck me then how quickly life could pivot. 3 weeks ago, I was sitting at her family's table, being humiliated in front of strangers. Now I was here, free of all of them, watching the house of cards collapse from a distance. Rebecca smirked. "The beautiful thing about truth is, once you let it out, you can't control where it lands." I raised my glass, to letting it fly. We clinked glasses again, and for the first time in years, I felt light. Not because I'd hurt them, but because I'd finally walked away from people who thought betrayal was a game. They could keep their rules. I was done playing.